Well, let's get started, huh? Happy Monday, May Day. At least we're not all out protesting. Anyway, Steve Dubois is our IT guy, and he is very private. So I don't know much about him. So I decided this morning that I would just make up some things about him. Did you know that when he was a toddler, he toddled over to a neighbor's garage and showed Bill Gates how to put together the system that became Microsoft? And did you know that he went to South Korea for a gamers conference and won $1 million? And did you know that the Chinese government has banned him from TikTok because of a scandal involving a Chinese movie star? Well, obviously none of these things are true, but what we do know is that he is a wizard with all things digital, and he is the only person I know who can completely de-jam the copier downstairs. So without further ado, Steve Dubois.
Good morning, folks. My name is Stephen Dubois. I've been here since 2021. She's right. I am kind of a private person, and I may not have done the greatest job of introducing myself to you guys. I went to Edmonds Woodway High School. I grew up here in the Seattle area. I went to Edmonds, for elementary, middle, and high school. And then I went to Edmonds Community College for a little bit, and then I went to ITT Tech, and that's where I got my degree in IT, and that was pretty fun. And then after that, I worked at Tommy Bahama, if you're familiar with that, supporting the restaurants and the stores there. And it was night shift, and so it was just solo, me, myself, and I from like 8 p.m. until 1 a.m. most nights, just supporting stores whenever anything went wrong, and being in a solitary state. It kind of made me isolated and weird. I kind of feel. And then after that, I worked in pharmaceuticals at Seattle Genetics. They have developed a very interesting cancer therapy where basically they use an antibody that has been developed that is sensitive to a specific kind of leukemia cell. There's a CD4 receptor on the cell. Anyway, so basically they have a smart bomb drug that only targets cancer cells. That's pretty interesting. It's very, the number of applications is limited just because of how targeted it is. So it's interesting seeing how they work with that. Anyway, and then after that, I worked at Kaiser Permanente for a very short period of time. And then I got tired of IT for a while. It was just very stressful. And so then I went and worked in the mailroom at T-Mobile. So there's the T-Mobile National HQ across the lake in Bellevue, and I worked there for like 4 years. It's when the pandemic started. I was working at T-Mobile and got to see all of that stuff happen from the giant glass cubes where I worked. And then eventually after all that, I ended up here, and this place has been amazing. It is quite literally the kindest place I have ever worked. And so, thank you guys so much for being so welcoming and kind to me, and I really appreciate that. And so today, I am running a relatively brief and circumscribed presentation on personal cybersecurity. So cybersecurity is just security that has to do with computers, cyberspace. And today, we'll mostly just be covering email, account security, and shopping online, the things you can do to help protect yourself there. And also, I will be taking questions after the thing. And actually, if you have questions during this, don't be afraid to raise your hand, and I will try and answer your questions. It's just, it'll take longer if you do that a lot, so just keep that in mind. What is phishing? So the number one biggest threat here in Hearthstone and honestly just around the world for most folks, most end users of computers is phishing. And phishing is a technique to try and get your personal information, your login credentials, like your username and password, your credit card numbers, your personal information, anything that could be used to like recover an account or anything like that. And the way they do it is they send you a fake email that looks legitimate. And so that happens relatively often. They also set up fake websites that look legitimate as well. And they send you like notifications. So there are keys to identifying phishing. So probably the first and easiest way to identify phishing is figuring out deceptive senders. So like the sender name, just the name that you put in as yourself who is sending an email, that is very easy to spoof. You can just put in whatever you want. Your email address, however, is much more difficult to spoof. And so as you can see here, we recently got a phishing email from somebody claiming to be Reggie and asking, hey, are you free to work with me right now? And people would say yes, and then immediately the next email they would get from this fake Reggie is, great, I'm heading into a meeting and I can't make calls now. Can you please buy an Amazon gift card for folks? Keep this very secret. And so there's a couple of red flags there. The first, quickest, and easiest to notice is Reggie Mullis always has a profile photo in all of his emails. And as you can see here on this fake one, there's no profile photo. So immediately you know something is up. This also is the case with a lot of your own personal emails in your own real world stuff on your computers. A lot of your contacts will have these profile photos, especially on websites like Facebook or Instagram or what are the kids using these days? Snapchat, various other websites. They'll have profile photos that you can use to identify various users and accounts. And if somebody has a profile photo and then you get a message and suddenly there's no profile photo there, that's a good indicator that it's not them. Additionally, there's also here an email address. So as you can see, Reggie Mullis, and then the email address says boxtask891@gmail.com. That's not his address. And so the thing is, yeah, deceptive senders. You're going to keep an eye out, and if people, hey there. Yes, people can spoof the profile pictures, but it's sort of, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, but Jill. Okay. So what she asked is, can people spoof the profile photos? They can, but the thing is they have to go to extra work in order to do it. It's less easy to automate. And a lot of the thing about phishing and these kinds of attacks is that they're heavily automated usually. So usually if it's like text, very easy to automate. Photos, much more difficult to automate. And so yes. They can often spoof these, but it's less likely to happen. It's just one of those extra things. So there's no single key giveaway to an email being phishing. It's like a compilation of things. Hey.
Why is boxtask891@gmail.com not an email address?
I mean, it is an email address. The @gmail.com part makes it an email address. An email address can be any string of text and then the server that sends the email out. So the reason why it's boxtask981@gmail.com is because it was probably generated as an automated email. So they had a program like an AI bot sitting in the background on their server, the attacker, and it's just generating and creating Gmail accounts very quickly and sending these emails out from new Gmail accounts over and over very fast. And so it just has a number, and every new Gmail account it makes, it ticks the number up one. Any other questions? All righty. Another key to identifying phishing, deceptive links. So as you can see in this email, you can have a link be any text you want. That is some of the beauty of links. So oftentimes people will get emails that say, hey, your account might be compromised. Verify it now. And in order to verify it, they want you to click a link. And so you can tell whether it's a real link or not by hovering your mouse over it, and then a tooltip, at least in Outlook, a tooltip will show up. Or if it's like webmail, like a lot of you guys use Comcast as your email. And you would go in a web browser and look it up. And so the tooltip will be down in the bottom edge of your screen, like down here somewhere, or down here somewhere. So what you do is you hover over the link, and if it's like going to someplace other than Outlook, for instance, so it says verify your Outlook email, but you see the link says fake phishing site.scam, so you know it's not it. But if it instead said, Microsoft.com/something, then you would know that it's legitimate. So basically, you're looking at links, and if you hover over the link and it looks like it's going someplace where it not where it says it's going, that's a good indication as well. Additionally, getting like an urgent email about an account compromise saying to click on the link is itself a bit of a red flag. Because, let's see, verification is important. So I'm skipping a little bit ahead. When in doubt, chat it out and verify independently. So the number one thing scammers rely on is urgency and people disengaging their critical thinking skills. That's really what it is. Scams work because they get past your critical thinking. And so if you get a message that is like, something terrible is happening and you need to act right now, that itself is, that pressure in itself is a warning. Whenever you feel pressured by an email, that is a warning that you need to pay closer attention and give it a little bit closer scrutiny. So when in doubt, verify. If you aren't sure whether an email is a phishing attempt or not, you can verify that independently. Like if you get an email from a friend or like a nephew. I've seen this happen. I'm not sure here, but I've seen it happen elsewhere. It happened with my grandmother when she was living with us, where she got a phone call from somebody, or actually she got an email from somebody claiming to be one of my cousins, saying that they were locked up in jail and that they needed her to send them Amazon gift cards in order to pay their bail and get out. Yes, and if you get somebody panicked enough, if they're confused enough, if they're not expecting it, it can work. It can get past them. And so that was a blatant one, obviously, but there's less blatant ones as well. And so another one that I had happen to me personally is many years ago, I got an email from Facebook, I thought, saying, well, you need to change your password right away. And so I clicked the link in the email to change my password, and it has the Facebook login screen. And so I tried to log in. It didn't work. What? That's strange. I'm pretty sure that's my password. Tried to log in. Didn't work again. I look at the URL up top. It's not Facebook's URL. It's a fake site made to look like Facebook. My problem was I saw this account warning and immediately panicked and clicked through. What I should have done is go into my browser and then go to Facebook independently, log in there and change the password there. So when you get like account alert emails in your email, you really need to, if it's saying, oh, it's your bank, you need to go to your bank's website instead of clicking through in the email. That's the thing. Clicking through in the email is very like handy, and like having links embedded in the emails has become very useful, but it's better to just follow through by independently going to the website instead of clicking on the link in the email. Additional things to look for in emails. Phishing emails often have spelling and grammar errors. And mainly this is a way to filter out less attentive people. You have folks who, probably you're familiar with the Nigerian prince scam from way back in the day, where you would get a letter from somebody claiming to be a Nigerian prince in Africa. They have so much money like held up in trust, but in order to get it out of Africa, they're going to send you like a $10 million finder's fee, but you have to send them like $600 first in advance as a good faith measure, and so on and so forth. But all of these emails universally tend to have really bad grammar in them. Bad spelling, bad grammar. And this is a way to root out people who are paying too much attention, essentially. If the email comes in and it says, "Hello, misters, I am El Vorben," or whatever, and like they constantly have spelling and grammar errors and poor punctuation and stuff, people who are paying close attention would just be like, this doesn't seem serious. Whereas people who are not paying close attention or maybe a little bit behind will take it more seriously. They're just looking for an easier mark who's not paying close attention. And then finally, attachments. So unsolicited emails with attachments are very dangerous. Don't open email attachments unless you are expecting them and they're coming from a human that you know. Don't open email attachments that you weren't expecting. Only open email attachments that you know are coming. Okay, and then the final, oh, go ahead.
So if I get an email attachment from my friend Nancy in Florida,
Yeah.
but she never said she would send the attachment, they could still put a fake attachment on her email?
So you're saying if like Nancy sent you an email, she didn't mean to have an attachment on the email. Like she sent you an email without an attachment, but it showed up with an attachment. Yeah, that would be technically it is a possible thing that can happen. It's unlikely to happen to you. That's some James Bond stuff. What's more likely to happen is somebody pretends to be your friend in Florida and sends you an email with an attachment. But yeah, that's kind of it. So the big, oh, go ahead. Well, I'm starting in on the slide.
What I'm wanting to know is if there are servers that are more or less vulnerable.
So phishing isn't a function. Your security from phishing is not a function of the email provider you are with. It is simply a fact of the world. And so while some providers are somewhat better at filtering out phishing than others, it's just something that's not easy to automatically block. And so I would say Gmail or there's a good email provider called Proton Mail, and I recommend Proton Mail. But they're high security mail, right? They're meant to be really indestructible. Proton Mail is like what journalists use when they're going to like Syria or Yemen or various other places. It's good. It's high privacy and good security. But Gmail is also very good.
How do you recognize that her friend from Florida is not, her email is not really her friend?
You would check the email address. So you would, yeah, in order to see if her friend from Florida was spoofed, you would check to make sure that the email address matches. So two-factor authentication. This is the nitty-gritty. Two-factor authentication is the single most important, most effective thing you can do to enhance your security. Now, it's not something you do once, it's something you have to do with every service. And every service pretty much nowadays will beg you to do it. Two-factor authentication basically is a way where you use your username and your password to log in, and then the login gets verified with a third step. And that third step can be a number of things, but most often it's the service sends you a text message with 6 numbers in it, a code with 6 digits in it. It's a temporary one-time code. And so you log in with your username and password. It says, please put in the code. You get the code on your phone. You plug that code in, and that's how you verify it really was you this time. And so this happens, this happens to be the most common way of doing two-factor authentication, but you can do two-factor using an app on your phone or even like your own little hardware device that has a little screen on it, and it just cycles through numbers every 30 seconds. This is important because two-factor authentication can keep you safe even if your username and password get stolen. This is important. If your username and password get stolen without two-factor authentication, it is off to the races and they can do whatever they want with your account. With two-factor authentication, if they get your username and password, they still won't be able to log in unless you say so. That is the big, key, important thing. Now, it's less convenient. Oh, go ahead.
I used it for like a bank account. But
Yes.
do you use it for other things?
Yes, so typically what people will be familiar with two-factor today with is bank accounts, usually, or other payment systems, but it is available for nearly every email or other online account that you run. So like Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, every other social network can do two-factor authentication. Your email will be able to do two-factor authentication. So Xfinity email, Comcast email, Gmail, Apple. Apple is very two-factor based. In fact, most Apple-related logins will force you into two-factor, and the second factor is not a text message, it is owning an iPhone. Yes. So a lot of Apple's authentication systems are baked into using an iPhone, and you will not be able to get into your iCloud account on a Windows computer unless you have your Apple iPhone with you in order to authorize that login. So that's fun too. Yes.
What about facial recognition?
So facial recognition is, I personally find fingerprinting and facial recognition to be less secure than using a long password. The long password thing is still less secure than a password plus two-factor authentication. So when you have like facial recognition on your phone or fingerprint recognition on your phone, those aren't to enhance their, oh shoot, sorry. So fingerprint and facial recognition on your phone, those aren't to enhance security. Those are actually to make your phone easier to use. It's to make logging into them faster. It's not to make the phone itself more secure. Hey.
Say something about voice verification.
Voice verification. So I don't think there's any voice recognition-based systems that I can think of. Oh, okay, yeah, okay. So for two-factor authentication, you mean? Yes, so for two-factor authentication, the most common way it's implemented is with a 6-digit code that gets sent as a text message to your phone. But there are other ways you can do this. You can do it, like you said, with voice verification. So instead of getting a text message with 6 digits, you get a voice call on your phone, just like a regular phone call, and then the robot reads out 3, 4, 8, 6, 9, 8, 4, 3, and then you plug that code in instead. And that way you can use two-factor authentication with a landline that does not have text messaging. You can also get around the text messaging thing by using an app on your phone instead of text messages. Oh, how do you get enrolled in two-factor authentication? This is the messy thing. It's different for pretty much every service, and you need to follow the instructions that are on the website for the service that you do. So that is sort of the unfortunate thing. It's not it is standardized, but there's no one big company that ties it all in. Like if you have online banking with BECU, you would have to set up two-factor authentication by going to your profile settings. So two-factor will generally be in your profile settings. So in whatever online account. Literally any online account should offer two-factor in one way or another. And there'll be on the website. So imagine this is a website. Usually up here in the upper right-hand corner will be like your user profile information. So you click on that, and you click on profile. And then over here, generally in this area of the user profile is your settings tabs usually. And you would click on the settings tab for security. And then in security, there's options for like changing your username and password, and then also turning on two-factor authentication under account security in any online account you're doing. Hey.
Maybe you're going to get to this, but when I log in with two-factor, very often it offers me skip this step in the future.
Yes. So,
Even if you click it, it doesn't skip.
yes. So often, yeah, there are a bunch of two-factor authentication systems will offer the option to save this authentication for a given amount of time. Usually they say like 30 days or 2 weeks. And the way that happens is it's like a session token that gets saved as a little tiny piece of information inside of your browser called a cookie. So it's a browser cookie. If you're familiar with browser cookies, that's how this happens. And so they often tell you to clear out your cookies at the end of the session. Like if you use the Firefox web browser, it by default will clear out cookies at the when you close the window, when you close the browser session. And so if you check that box to say, remember me for the next 30 days, but it clears the cookies out when you close the window, it won't remember you again, because you've cleared out the information that is remembering it. For the sake of convenience. They're encouraging you to skip the two-factor and say, oh, stay logged in for the sake of convenience. And the idea is you would do this on like a cell phone or a desktop computer that doesn't leave whatever premises. Like the cell phone never leaves your person, the computer never leaves your home. So you check those boxes. You would do this on something like a laptop or a public computer. You would not check that box because those devices would be accessible to people out in public.
Want to mention that for people who don't have smartphones, some sites offer email two-factor.
That is true, yes. So thank you for bringing that up as well. Thank you. He mentioned some websites also offer email-based two-factor authentication. So there's an art website that I use called pixiv.net. And Pixiv has email two-factor authentication. So there's 2 steps to that. Either you can have it email you whenever you log in, just to let you know, hey, your account's been logged in. And so if for instance, you get that email when you're not browsing the website and haven't logged in, you know somebody is up to something. Or you can do two-factor where it's like, okay, you do your login. You plug in your email address, you plug in your password, you hit enter, and then it says an email has been sent to your account with a link to log in. And so then you would go to your email account, you would verify by make sure that the domain name in the link is correct, and then click through, and that will log you in. Personally, I don't like this email system link because it's easy to get confused by phishing with it. Because somebody who's phishing you could send a legitimate-looking login email that would have a link to a scam site, and then you would probably try to plug in your credentials again, and then it would catch your credentials that way. Hey.
This is not on this thing, but it's security.
Sure. What's up?
So I tried to open a Facebook account,
Mm.
and they want a picture of my passport or my driver's license. That is very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And then I tried to do it, and then they said it wasn't good enough, and so I should do it again. And I thought,
Yes. I don't like Facebook, and I don't like Mark Zuckerberg, and I don't like advertising. I will get to you and just literally actually, I can skip ahead to it. The attention economy and you. The internet is full of ads. I recommend using ad blockers such as uBlock Origin. to enhance your safety online and declutter the internet. The thing is, 90% of malware and scams perpetrated online are either through phishing or through your ads. And the reason why she brought up Facebook, and the reason why I go immediately to ads from Facebook is because Facebook is not a social network about connecting people together. Facebook is a social network about gathering information, intelligence about every single user, you people, and then selling that information to advertisers who can then alter what the layout of Facebook has on it and alter the content of stories in order to manipulate your sentiment and how you're feeling. Facebook is an emotion machine designed to change how your emotions are working, essentially. This is documented. This is not crazy conspiracy thinking. This is something that you can actually look up online. When you look up, just Google Facebook unauthorized emotion-based studies. They do a lot of things that colleges would not allow their own psychology departments to do. In any case, the whole ID thing with Facebook, they want to make sure that you're a real person so that your valuable data gets paid the right price for. That's why they want you to go through that whole step thing where you're verifying your identity. I recommend you don't do it. I recommend you don't have Facebook. I recommend that you stay off of Facebook. You'll be happier. Okay. Let me step off my soapbox now.
You said at one point that if you have an Apple or an iPhone, you can't get ad blockers. Is that true?
It is not true. You can get ad blockers on iPhones and iPads and Apple Mac computers and laptops. It is just difficult. Apple will fight you on it because they don't want a third party getting between them and you. Hey, Don.
Stephen, I want to go back to your statement about Facebook. I am not on Facebook, and I never have been, but I know many people who are, only because they have
Family and friends on
family, and that's the only way they can connect with them, and so they are an emotional bond.
Yes, they are. Facebook likes that. Facebook and Apple are both use this to their advantage where they get people onboarded soon, and then they have technological lockout where it's difficult to interact with people who are on their platform from anywhere else. And so you get things like the green message bubbles on an Apple iPhone. Like if you're in a group chat on an Apple iPhone in iMessage, if somebody is on an Android or on a feature phone instead of an iPhone, their messages will come in on green bubbles and it will break up the group chat and make the group chat it'll make the group chat harder to use on all the iPhone's participants. And this isn't a function caused by the non-iPhones. This is the iPhones reacting in software to seeing people from non-iPhones and breaking their experience. And then people complain, and then people are like, you should buy an iPhone, instead of saying, Apple, you should fix your software to be less hostile to the consumer. Anyway, so the same thing happens with Facebook. Here's the thing about Facebook, though. You can use Facebook Messenger, and you don't have to go through the verification system for Facebook Messenger that you do for a regular Facebook account. So if you have friends and family on Facebook and you need to talk with them using Facebook products, I recommend using Facebook Messenger, but not setting up a Facebook account. And that is generally a more secure option for you. And Facebook Messenger can be run on desktops, laptops, and your phones and tablets. Shopping online. So I've noticed in the last year and a half, maybe 2 years, something has become a lot more common on e-commerce sites like Amazon, and that is paying with a bank account. For many years, from 2000 until 2020, you couldn't pay for stuff online with a bank account in an easy way. Usually, you had to use a credit or debit card. I recommend never giving anybody your bank information online. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's stupid. If anybody gets your routing number and your account number, then they can just draw on your account however they like. I also recommend don't use debit cards online. So both of these things are like cash transactions. If there's a bad or fraudulent transaction that happens, the options for you are limited. And oftentimes they cannot reverse these charges. Whereas if you use a payment processor, such as PayPal, or if you use a credit card, usually fraudulent charges can be reversed. And so that's just my brief little thing. I'm sure you guys are a bit more savvy about money than I am, just from having been around longer than me. And so I won't try to lecture you too hard on this. Zelle is good. Zelle is good. Zelle is just as trustworthy as PayPal, in my opinion. Venmo is a PayPal product. Yeah. That's all built into the Hearthstone itself, and that's as secure as anything. Do you trust the guys in finance? That's what that boils down to. Is just if it's like with the like kitchen to do your meals and stuff like that. The only people who see that transaction information is just in accounting downstairs down here, and I think that's like 2 or 3 people, if that. So it's very secure, I would say. Never leaves the building, never goes online. Yep.
More places like KCTS are encouraging us to have it taken directly from our bank account instead of our credit card. Sounds like that's not good.
Yes. So what she said is KCTS is encouraging people to take from their bank account rather than their credit card. I believe the reason why they want to do that is simply because if they go from the bank account instead of the credit card, the draft hits KCTS's accounts faster.
And there's no fee.
Yeah, no fee. No processing fee for using a bank account. You're right about that. Whereas the credit cards has credit processing fees and all that. I still don't recommend it. Doing bank account transfers are just less secure than using credit. There's a reason why credit's more expensive. It's because they go to more effort and it's more secure.
Following the same logic, I usually write checks for things like KCTS, but that reveals my account number.
Yeah, checks are less secure because if somebody gets a hold of your check, they could do fraudulent draws. And if the bank doesn't catch that before it goes through, then you're not entitled to having the charge reversed. So checks, while they are more secure than using cash, I still wouldn't recommend using them over credit cards. Yeah, because there's man in the middle. Like somebody can intercept that check before it gets to its destination. Yeah, it's all theoretically possible. Like the real world has agents and entities in it.
I have an example of my son's first paycheck for his real job after college. He dropped it in, he was still banking with People. He was back east, he dropped his deposit in the mailbox. Someone got it, and he never could recover it.
Yeah. The interesting thing about online transactions versus real world transactions is that every transaction, every communication you have with your bank online is totally encrypted. So if somebody in the middle got a hold of it, it would be really nearly impossible for them to be able to see what the message is. They would not be able to decrypt it. Whereas if you mail a check using the USPS, if somehow that check fell out of a mail bag, somebody could pick that check up and then read it immediately. It'd be like having a completely scrambled up check on the way to the destination, and only the destination would be able to unscramble the check.
I've read recently that checks do need to be written using a gel pen.
I don't know about that. Gel pens I would expect smear really easily, and they're a little bit more difficult to like deal with. But I'm not technologically up to date on the James Bond stuff with invisible ink and exploding golf balls. I'm sorry. Yeah, I would expect that gel pens make check washing very difficult because they smear so bad and get everywhere.
What about deposits by just taking a picture of your check?
That's actually pretty secure because the photo deposit system would be ECU. So what she said is, how secure is it when you use, for instance, BECU or Bank of America to take a photo of a check and then do the deposit into your account using your phone's app? And that actually is quite secure because it gets encrypted on your phone and then sent in an encrypted format to the bank, who then decrypts it themselves. So that's actually pretty secure. It's more secure than mailing the check. Any follow-up? Okay. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay.
You have more slides?
I do have more slides.
You mentioned a long password.
Yeah. Okay, so a secure password in this day and age means it has to be at least 8 characters long. It has to have at least 2 uppercase and 2 lowercase, and a numeral and a symbol, like the exclamation point or the $sign or the period. It also shouldn't be a dictionary word. It also shouldn't be a grammatical phrase. So it gets difficult. I use password managers, and I recommend password managers. So built into every browser that you use, there's a password manager in there. And now they're also offering secure passwords. So like in Firefox, in Chrome, in Edge, in Safari. Huh? Oh, yeah. KeyPass, right? Keeper. Okay. But yeah, if you use a password manager like KeyPass or Keeper or Dashlane, they'll generate big long passwords that are 10 or 12 or 20 characters long. They'll be totally unreadable. It'll just be a mishmash of letters, numbers, symbols, and everything. And those are good passwords. You'll never remember them. And so you use a password manager like what's built into your browser or like KeyPass or Dashlane. And they will remember those passwords for you, and then you can actually set a master password that you do remember, make it a good long one. A grammatical phrase actually is okay, generally. It just shouldn't be 2, 3, or 4 word phrases.
Lost me. So the password manager in the browser is secure.
The password manager is generally secure, but you should use a password on the password manager to lock it up.
So then you just have one password.
Yeah, you should create one big long password that's like something only you would say. So I have a friend, I won't say who he is, and I don't remember what his actual password is. But his password is something like, yes, Stephen always reminds me I need to get a much longer password.
Okay, so then if you go to your site, let's say it's the bank, and they want your password. What do you do?
If you go to your, so you're using password managers. So you have your big main password manager. When you have your computer cold in the morning, it's dead, right? You open up your computer, you start it up, you log into your account, you open up your web browser. Your web browser will be like, what's the master password? You plug that in. That unlocks your web browser. And then you can go to like becu.org, and then it'll just say, auto-suggest your account information and just auto-fill it. Yep. And then every time you create an account, you just right-click on the password field, and one of the options in the right-click menu is generate a secure password. That's just an option that's available in every browser now.
Yeah, but are you hostage to that password manager for the rest?
Not for browsers. Browser password managers, generally no. Generally, they will be able to export all of that credential information to whatever other browsers you have installed. If you're using Dashlane, I'm not sure, but yes, some password managers will try to be proprietary and not allow you to migrate. Other password managers will use standardized formats like JSON and XML to allow you to export your account information, your usernames and passwords and website names in order to get them imported into other managers. But yeah, if you're using a browser-based password manager, like the one that's built into Firefox or Edge or Chrome, all of those will automatically export into whatever other browsers you have installed. So like you have a Windows computer, it has Edge. You've been using Edge for the last 2 years. You have all of your passwords saved in Edge. You decide you want to use Firefox instead. You install Firefox, and then in Firefox, like on first run, it says, do you want to import from other browsers? And you can say yes, and then it says, oh look, there's an Edge profile. Import that Edge profile, and it'll suck up all the passwords and information, and now Firefox has all of that information too. Hey. Cell phones and spam, so that's not unique from phishing. So if you have a cell phone with your email on it, you would be following the same kinds of techniques, rules, guidelines, heuristics. You'd be following the same kinds of rules that you would for regular email on your cell phone. Now, if you're getting like spam phone calls on your phone, usually your provider, your phone provider, like Verizon or T-Mobile or whoever, will give you a phone number you can call for doing, like to report this in, like a do not call list type of deal. Unfortunately, it's not super reliable, but yeah, you have to deal with your phone provider in order to get things blocked. And usually on your phone, you're given the option to block senders as well. So if you're getting spam text messages, usually you can just in your text message view in your text message app, you can click on a sender, and in like the advanced options, there's an option usually to block them, and that's what you got to do, is block the sender. Briefly, talking about staying safe online, cryptocurrencies are a scam. Anyone who tells you different is profiting from a cryptocurrency. That's really what it is. It's a bigger fool scam, essentially, like a Ponzi scheme, really. The people who got in on the ground floor are being paid off by people who get brought in later on the hype train. And so they pump up the value, and they have all of these suckers come in. And then basically the original investors who got in early sell off, and they dump. They're just pump and dumps, really. They're Ponzi scheme pump and dumps. I've seen it a million times. I watch it happen. There's like a cycle to it. It's like a 3-month cycle. You watch it over and over again. People act like you're a massive jerk when you point it out to them. And then finally, got the attention economy and you. And so yeah, I recommend using ad blockers. I recommend using uBlock Origin to block ads. That works in Firefox, Chrome, Edge. It doesn't work in Safari or on your iPhone. But on your iPhone, in the Apple App Store, you can install OneBlocker, numeral 1, BLOCKER. And that app will block a lot of ads online as well. Not as many as uBlock Origin, but it does work. Yeah.
That reminds me, I get all these goofy ads, and I go into unsubscribe, push on the button that says unsubscribe, and then it says, oops, there's a problem with this.
Yeah, don't...
So you can't get rid of it.
Well, yeah. So those unsubscribe links on emails that you get, spam emails, don't click on those links. Those unsubscribe links are actually to tell the sender that this is a live address that has a human on the other end.
Does OneBlock work on Safari?
Yes, OneBlocker is Apple-based software, and you can install it on your iPhone and your iPad. and then in Safari, yeah, it should work on your desktop and your laptop too. If you want to use better ad blocking on an Apple laptop or desktop, I recommend installing Firefox on them and then installing uBlock in Firefox. What do we do when you get a spam email and you want to stop that and you don't want to click the unsubscribe button? So in practically every email client that you have that exists, you can right-click or get the extended options on any given message, and you can file it as junk and block the sender. And so that's the option to do. If you get spam email, don't click unsubscribe inside the email. Instead, you should block it as junk or block the sender inside the mail app that you're using. And I believe that's the last slide, actually. So, yeah, that's the last slide. Any further questions? Any general questions?
What about identity insurance, identity guard, stuff like that?
The identity theft protection.
Yeah.
Okay. I have complicated feelings about identity theft protection services. If your identity has already been stolen and people are screwing with you, they are a good service to use. They can be very helpful in backing you out of that bad situation. They are not worth paying for otherwise. If you have not had your identity stolen, I do not recommend it. And it's actually a risk to go and enroll in these. It's a risk to enroll in these products, these identity theft protection products, because they centralize all of your information into their database, and they can be breached. So that's the thing. So I mentioned two-factor authentication earlier. The reason why it works so well is, or the reason why it's important is, user account databases. Every website that has user accounts has a user account database. That's a really juicy target for people who are trying to do identity theft kind of things. And so those get breached relatively often. So if you use, for instance, Firefox, and you use the built-in password manager in Firefox, Firefox will tell you whenever one of the accounts that you have has gotten breached. Whenever your account's been included in one of those stolen databases, Firefox will let you know. And then you know that you have to go and change your password. So that's a useful thing as well. So I don't like the identity theft protection systems, because if they get breached, they have all of your information, including like your credit information. And so I don't want to voluntarily put all that stuff into one place where it could get stolen. But if it's already been stolen, they're a good service to have.
That's one of the arguments against using
What? Here we go. Yes, that is an argument against using a master password and a password manager. But the thing is, you control that password manager. It's on your hardware. It's not out in the cloud somewhere that have however many engineers accessing it in order to do their daily maintenance and stuff like that. Whereas if you're on an identity theft management system like LifeLock or Norton or whatever else, all of your data is being kept on the cloud out on the internet somewhere, somebody else's computer. And it can be easily accessed already by all of the various engineers who work for Norton or LifeLock or whoever else. And so it's, I feel, less secure to warehouse your data that way than to use a single master password on your own desktop, on your own home computer. You're less likely to be targeted than LifeLock is. One more question. Yes. I mean, it depends on how much you trust your utility. Your utility, like the weak point is whoever is doing the draw. So if you trust your utility and don't think they'll ever be breached, then that's then the direct draw from the utility, that's a safe option for you if you feel that way. Personally, I am I'm with the understanding that anybody who has your payment information could be breached. So you should use a payment method that doesn't matter if it gets breached. And that's why I recommend credit over account draws or debit or checks.
So when I put my debit card number in at my dentist, their office staff can see that number?
Can generally, let's see, like at the point of sale machine, if you're plugging it into a point of sale machine, then staff can't see it. If you're giving it to the staff, then yeah. But yeah, no, the staff generally don't have access to the back end of the point of sale machine. And the thing is, as you're plugging in the pin to the point of sale machine, all that information gets encrypted before it leaves the machine itself.
So AOL has said a new benefit is that they'll give me McAfee for free. Do I want McAfee? No.
She was saying Norton was offering McAfee for free. Everybody and their mother offers McAfee for free. That's because McAfee is worthless.
I would like to thank Steve for coming this morning and answering so many questions. Holy cow. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I also have